Please don't marry her, the homeless boy said at the church. What he revealed next shocked everyone. A grand cathedral, a perfect wedding, a millionaire groom about to say, "I do." Then a barefoot homeless boy screams from the aisle, "Don't marry her!" Security rushes in. The bride panics. The boy knows the groom's name. What he reveals next exposes betrayal, greed, and a secret affair with the groom's best friend. Right at the altar. This wedding doesn't end with vows. It ends with truth. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments, what time is it and where are you watching from? Let's start. St. Augustine's Cathedral was magnificent in the golden afternoon light. Stained glass windows cast colorful patterns across polished wooden pews. White roses and candles adorned every surface. The vaulted ceiling echoed with the whispers of 200 guests dressed in their finest attire, all waiting for the moment they'd traveled from across the country to witness. At the altar stood James Whitfield, 32, looking every bit the successful investment banker he was. His dark green tuxedo was perfectly tailored, his brown hair styled immaculately, a deep red rose pinned to his lapel. His hands were clasped in front of him, his posture confident despite the nerves that always came with major life moments. Beside him, holding his arm, stood his bride. Victoria Ashton wore a stunning white lace wedding gown that had cost more than most people's cars. Her dark hair was pulled back elegantly beneath a flowing white veil. At 29, she was a corporate lawyer at one of the city's most prestigious firms. Ambitious, beautiful, exactly the kind of woman James's family had always expected him to marry. The priest, an elderly man in traditional white and gold vestments, stood before them with his worn Bible open to the marriage ceremony passage. "Dearly beloved," he began, his voice carrying through the cathedral, "we are gathered here today to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony." James barely heard the words. He was focused on Victoria's face, on the way the light caught her features, on the smile she gave him that was equal parts joy and triumph. They'd been together for 3 years. This was the culmination of careful planning, family expectations, career considerations. This was what success looked like. The ceremony proceeded smoothly. Readings were read. Songs were sung. The priest spoke about love and commitment and the sacred bond of marriage. Then came the moment. "If anyone here knows of any lawful reason why these two should not be joined in marriage," the priest intoned in the traditional words, "speak now or forever hold your peace." It was a formality. No one ever actually objected at weddings. This was the moment where everyone stayed silent. The ceremony continued and, "Please don't marry her." The scream came from the back of the cathedral, high-pitched, desperate, cutting through the reverent silence like a knife. Every head turned. A small figure stood in the center aisle, about 20 feet from the last pew. A boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, with dark brown skin and wild, uncombed black hair. He wore a beige or tan shirt that was torn and stained, clearly several sizes too big. His bare feet were dirty against the cathedral's polished floor. A homeless child in the middle of a high society wedding. "Please," the boy shouted again, his voice cracking with emotion, "please, don't marry her. You can't." James felt Victoria's grip tighten on his arm. He looked at her face and saw something flash across it. Fear? Anger? It was gone too quickly to identify. "Security," Victoria hissed under her breath. But the two security guards hired for the event were already moving down the aisle toward the boy. The child saw them coming and ran forward instead of away, sprinting down the center aisle towards the altar. "Mr. James!" the boy yelled. "Mr. James, please, you have to listen to me." He knows my name, James thought with a shock. How does he know my name? The boy dodged around one security guard with surprising agility and kept running. He made it halfway down the aisle before the second guard caught him, grabbing him around the waist. "No, let me go. He needs to know." The boy struggled in the guard's arms, his eyes locked on James with desperate intensity. "Please, she's lying to you about everything." "Get him out of here!" Victoria snapped, her lawyer voice cutting through the chaos. "Now!" But James held up a hand. "Wait." "James, don't!" Victoria said urgently. "This is clearly some disturbed child. We should continue." "He knows my name," James interrupted, "and he's saying you're lying to me. I think I deserve to hear what he has to say." "This is ridiculous," Victoria said, but her face had gone pale beneath her makeup. James stepped down from the altar, ignoring the gasps from the guests, ignoring Victoria's protests, ignoring the priest's confused sputtering. He walked to where the security guard held the struggling boy. "Put him down," James said quietly. "Sir, I don't think—" "Put him down." The guard complied. The boy immediately grabbed James's hand with both of his small, dirty ones. "Mr. James, my name is Marcus. Do you remember me?" James looked at the child's face, really looked, and felt a jolt of recognition. "The shelter, 3 months ago. You were at the Riverside Homeless Shelter when I was volunteering." "Yes." Marcus's face lit up with relief. "You helped me and my mom. You gave us food and blankets, and you talked to my mom for a long time about finding work." James did remember now. He volunteered at the shelter once a month, something he'd started doing after his younger brother had died homeless from addiction 2 years ago. He remembered this boy and his mother, how the child had been so polite and grateful. "I remember," James said. "Marcus, right? How's your mom doing? Did she find work?" Marcus's face fell. "She did. She found work with a family as a housekeeper, but Mr. James—" He took a shaky breath. "The family she works for? It's her family, your fiancé's family." James felt ice run down his spine. "What?" "Marcus, that's enough." Victoria's voice came from behind him, sharp and commanding. "James, don't listen to this. He's clearly confused or lying or—" "Let him speak," James said without turning around. Marcus glanced nervously at Victoria, then back at James. "My mom works at the Ashton house. She cleans and cooks. And Mr. James, she hears things. She sees things." "What kind of things?" James asked, though part of him didn't want to know. "Miss Victoria has another man," Marcus said, the words tumbling out in a rush. "A man named Richard. He comes to the house when you're at work. He's been coming for over a year. My mom sees him there all the time. She hears them talking about how you don't know. About how after the wedding, after she gets access to your money through the marriage, she's going to divorce you and take half of everything, and then she and Richard are going to—" "That is enough!" Victoria's scream echoed through the cathedral. She had descended from the altar and now stood a few feet away, her beautiful face twisted with rage. "This is slander. This is a homeless child's fantasy. James, you cannot possibly believe—" "Richard Morrison?" James asked quietly, his eyes still on Marcus. "Tall, dark hair, works in commercial real estate." Marcus nodded eagerly. "Yes, that's him. You know him." "He's my college roommate," James said, his voice hollow. "He's my best man. He's standing right there at the altar." James turned to look at the altar where his groomsmen stood frozen in shock. Richard Morrison stood among them in an identical dark green tuxedo, his face having gone completely white. "James, I can explain—" Richard started. "Don't," James said, and his voice was so cold that Richard actually took a step back. "Don't say a single word." He turned to Victoria. "Is it true?" "James, please, you can't believe a homeless child over me. Is it true?" Victoria's face cycled through several emotions: denial, anger, calculation. Then, perhaps realizing that denial wouldn't work with 200 witnesses watching, she settled on defiance. "Fine. Yes, Richard and I have been seeing each other. But, James, you have to understand you're never home. You're always working. Richard actually makes time for me. He actually—" "For a year?" James interrupted. "You've been cheating on me with my best friend for a year, and you were going to marry me anyway. Why?" Victoria's chin lifted. "Because you're worth $40 million, James. And I'm a lawyer. I know exactly how much I'd get in a divorce settlement after 2 years of marriage. Richard and I have plans, big plans, and your money is going to fund them." The cathedral had gone absolutely silent. 200 guests sat frozen in shock, watching the most dramatic wedding objection in history unfold. James felt numb. 3 years. 3 years of his life with this woman, planning a future, talking about children, building what he thought was a partnership, all a lie, all calculated, all for money. He looked down at Marcus, who was watching him with worried eyes. "How did you know to come here today?" James asked. "My mom," Marcus said. "She heard Miss Victoria and Mr. Richard talking last night, laughing about how they were going to pull it off, how you were too trusting to ever suspect. My mom, she felt bad. She wanted to tell you, but she was afraid she'd lose her job. So I came instead. I had to warn you." "How did you get here?" "I walked. It took 3 hours. I wasn't sure I'd make it in time." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry I yelled in church. I know that was bad. But I couldn't let you marry someone who was just using you. You were nice to me and my mom. You helped us when nobody else would. I couldn't let her hurt you." James knelt down so he was eye level with the boy. "Marcus, you have nothing to apologize for. You just saved me from the biggest mistake of my life." He stood and turned to face Victoria and Richard. "Get out. Both of you. Get out of this cathedral right now." "James, be reasonable," Victoria started. "Out!" James roared, and the force of it made her stumble backward. "You used me. You both betrayed me. And you were going to go through with it, weren't you? You were going to say vows you didn't mean, make promises you'd never keep, all for money." He pulled the red rose from his lapel and dropped it on the floor. "The wedding is over. The engagement is over. Whatever relationship we had is over. And Richard?" He looked at his former best man. "I hope she was worth losing everything. Because you've lost me, you've lost your reputation, and after everyone here tells this story, and they will, you've lost your career too." Richard and Victoria stood frozen for a moment. Then Victoria grabbed her dress and ran down the aisle, her heels clicking against the floor, her veil streaming behind her. Richard followed, unable to meet anyone's eyes. The cathedral doors slammed behind them. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then James looked at the 200 guests sitting in stunned silence. "I apologize for the disruption," he said, his voice carrying through the space. But thank you all for coming. There will be no wedding today. However, there's a reception hall full of food and an open bar that's already paid for. Please enjoy it. Celebrate dodging a bullet with me." A nervous laugh rippled through the crowd, then applause. Genuine applause for the homeless boy who'd stopped a wedding and saved a man from disaster. James turned to Marcus. "Where's your mom?" "She's still at the Ashton house. She's probably going to get fired when Miss Victoria tells her family what happened." "No, she's not," James said firmly, "because I'm going to hire her, and I'm going to pay her double what the Ashtons did. And Marcus?" He paused. "Would you and your mom like to come to the reception? There's going to be a lot of food, and I think you deserve the best meal of your life after walking 3 hours to save me." Marcus's face lit up with the biggest smile James had ever seen. "Really? Really? Come on, let's go call your mom and tell her everything's okay." As they walked down the aisle together, the former groom in his dark green tuxedo and the homeless boy in his torn tan shirt, the guests parted like a sea, many of them wiping tears from their eyes, because they'd just witnessed something rare and precious. Truth triumphing over deception, a child's courage saving an adult's future, and a man realizing that the most valuable people in his life weren't the ones in designer clothes and expensive jewelry. Sometimes they were the ones in torn shirts and bare feet, willing to walk 3 hours to stop you from making the biggest mistake of your life. If this story left you speechless, don't stay silent. Like if you believe a homeless child's truth is worth more than a lawyer's lies. Comment below. Would you have believed the boy? Have you ever exposed someone's secret to protect another person? Subscribe for stories where the powerless speak truth that the powerful tried to hide.